Hello, thank you for participating in the Fiscal Year 2023 Department of Education's Fulbright-Hays Group Projects Abroad Short-Term Technical Assistance webinar. My name is Cory Neal, and I am the GPA Program Manager. Please note that, as always, we will be conducting two separate workshops for GPA short-term projects and GPA long-term projects. This technical assistance workshop will focus on the short-term projects. Both webinars have been pre-recorded and can be accessed through the Department of Education's GPA website. The agenda for our technical assistance workshop is as follows. We will review the purpose of the GPA short-term program. We will also review the competition highlights as referenced in the NIAs. We'll discuss the eligibility requirements for both applicants and participants. We'll review each of the short-term project types. We'll discuss each of the project phases for the short-term project. We'll go over allowable cost under the GPA short-term program. We'll review the selection criteria and the process for selecting awardees. And lastly, we'll provide some helpful tips for developing a competitive application. The GPA short-term project is designed to promote, improve, and develop modern foreign languages and area studies throughout the educational structure of the United States. The program gives K-12 teachers, faculty, undergraduate, and graduate students opportunities to conduct research and studies abroad in modern foreign languages and area and international studies. You may be asking yourself, what is area studies? Well, we define area studies as the study of the aspects of a society or societies, including the study of their geography, history, culture, economy, politics, international relations, or languages. So for the fiscal year 2023, for our short-term competition, our estimated range of awards is from $50,000 to $180,000, with the average size award being approximately $92,605, and we estimate to make approximately 15 short-term awards. But please note that the department is not bound by any estimate in this notice. Okay, we always have an absolute priority. And that absolute priority is something that there's no getting around, okay? That all short-term projects must focus on one or more of the following geographic regions of the world: Africa, East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia and the Pacific, the Western Hemisphere, or Eastern and Central Europe and Eurasia, and the Near East. Please note that short-term projects that focus on Western Europe will not be reviewed. These countries include Andorra, Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Malta, Monaco, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, San Marino, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. Okay, I'm going to cover applicant and participant eligibility requirements. So in order to apply, you must be an institution of higher education, a state department of education, private nonprofit educational organization, or a consortia of institutions, departments, and organizations. So those are who can apply. Now, who can participate in our program? An individual is eligible to participate in a GPA short-term program if he or she is a citizen, national, or permanent resident of the United States, meaning they have a green card, and an individual who is currently employed full-time in a U.S. school system, institution of higher education, local education agency, or state education agency. Obviously, this is not applicable to students. Individuals who are not currently employed and are studying full-time or its equivalent are not eligible. The program will allow a combination of teaching and studying at 100%. Continuing on with eligibility, participants may also be a teacher in an elementary or secondary school. They can be a faculty member who teaches modern foreign languages or area studies. An experienced education administrator responsible for planning, conducting, or supervising programs in modern foreign languages or area studies at the elementary, secondary, or post-secondary level. You may also participate if you're a graduate student or junior or senior in an institution of higher education who is a prospective teacher in the areas of social sciences, humanities, and foreign languages. Please note, of course, like I said, that graduate students or juniors or seniors don't have to be working full-time to be eligible. The student also should meet the provisions set by his or her local or state education agency. Okay, breaking down the short term, the GPA short term, we have 3 different project types, and you can apply for one of these project types per application. And those would be a short-term seminar, a short-term curriculum development project, or a short-term group research or study. So let's break those down even further. A short-term seminar project typically lasts 4 weeks, and they are designed to promote the integration of international studies into the social sciences and/or humanities curriculum through U.S. school systems at all levels. Again, they increase linguistic and/or cultural competency among U.S. students and educators, and they focus on a particular aspect of area study, such as the culture of an area or a portion of the culture of the country of study. Curriculum development projects, these are generally 4 weeks in length as well, and allow for participants to acquire firsthand resource materials, including artifacts, books, documents, educational films, recordings, museum reproductions, and other instructional material for curriculum development in modern foreign language and area studies for use and dissemination in the United States. And our third short-term project is the group research project or the group study project. These projects are typically 3 months in length, so they are much longer than the other 2, and they're designed to give participants the opportunity to undertake research or study in a country outside of the United States. Unlike the other 2 short-term project types, participants in a group study project must possess the language proficiency and disciplinary competence in the area of research. A grantee should conduct a language assessment pretest to determine a participant's language proficiency. So breaking these down even further by the numbers. For short-term seminars and short-term curriculum development projects, the minimum time spent in the host country is 4 weeks. This does not include the pre-departure orientation in the United States, and we'll discuss the pre-departure orientation in a little bit. Your grant performance period is 18 months. If you choose to spend the minimum 4 weeks in country, you must include 12 participants and 1 project director for a total of 13 individuals participating. And then as you see, the longer time spent in country, the fewer participants are required. So 6 weeks, you could have a minimum of 10 participants, and 8 weeks, you'd have a minimum of 8 participants. Okay, the maximum grant award for both seminars and curriculum development is $180,000. More information on this can be found on pages 16 and 17 of the 2023 grant application. Group research projects, again, are designed to undertake research or study in a country outside of the United States. The length of these projects is from a minimum of 12 weeks to as long as 12 months. The minimum number of participants is 3, and then including a project director, bringing the total to 4. Participants must have a minimum of 1 semester intensive language and 1 course in the related area study. More information on group research can be found on page 18 of the GPA application package. And the same maximum grant award for this is $180,000. We highly encourage every applicant to check the State Department's websites for alerts and warnings, as GPA applicants proposing travel to a country that is closed to Fulbrighters will be disqualified. The countries on this slide are the current countries that are closed to Fulbrighters, but if you're unsure about a specific country, please feel free to contact me at gpa@ed.gov. As a reminder, we have received several inquiries about Cuba and Egypt as possible destinations for a GPA project. However, These countries are currently closed to Fulbright-Hays Group Projects Abroad programs. Okay, again, the grant performance period for short-term projects is 18 months. The proposed start and end dates for this year's competition should be June 15th, 2023 to December 15th, 2024. Okay, we're going to discuss the project phases. So these include the pre-departure phase, the overseas phase, and the post-overseas or follow-up phase. And all three of these phases kind of fall within that 18-month performance period. So the pre-departure phase. The pre-departure phase, you should have at least a minimum of 16 hours towards pre-departure orientation. Your orientation should consist of conducting a series of lectures on the country of study. Advanced reading material should be sent to the participants several weeks prior to the pre-departure orientation. You should include guidelines on curriculum development if that's applicable to your project. You should discuss daily living and traveling in the host country. You should include team building exercises, any sort of team assignments you may have, language training, and discuss any individual proposed projects. This slide contains an example of a pre-departure orientation schedule. Please make sure your pre-departure orientation schedule is detailed, as demonstrated by this example. You should include a copy of your pre-departure orientation in the appendices of your application package. The next slide contains, the next phase is your overseas phase. This is where you should provide detailed information in your in-country itinerary. These details should include a daily itinerary, details about academic lectures, language studies, field trips, cultural activities, debriefings, any sort of evaluations you may have, and travel arrangements and accommodations. As always, the more information you provide in your project narrative, the more likely you are to receive a respectable score. We will get into the project narrative here in just a minute. But first, let me give you another example. This is a sample of a in-country itinerary, and this should be included in your appendices as well. Just continued on. So you can see the breakdown of each day, the rationale for each activity. And for this project, they had labeled specific objectives for that. That's optional. Okay, applicants should include in the follow-up phase an end of project evaluation to be completed by each participant to assess the quality of the overseas project. The Department of Education reviews each evaluation submitted by participants to ascertain the success of the project and to provide suggestions for improvements should the grantee submit a subsequent application for funding. Applicants should include schedules for formal follow-up and dissemination, such as a series of workshops over the course of the next year. That includes announcements, discussions, curriculum meetings, presentations, critiques of lesson plans, if applicable, review of curricular projects for content accuracy and appropriateness, and any sort of preparations for publications. You could also discuss here how you will arrange follow-up visits to the local area from host country educators to serve as guest lecturers during the summer. This can result in an effective media blitz about the effectiveness of your GPA project, as well as significantly strengthen ties due to follow-up visits. Here is a sample chart containing an outline of follow-up activities. This also should be included in your appendices. Okay, we're going to talk about the allowable cost, what we cover as part of the GPA short-term program. Funding can be used for the following: lodging and meals, round-trip international travel, and as a reminder, all flights to and from the United States must be Fly America Act compliant. Travel within the host country. Funding can be used for educational materials purchased in the host country, meeting space within the host country, local administrative fees and services, any host country evaluators. It is very important to note that the grant does not provide funds for project-related expenses within the United States. This includes U.S.-based salaries, pre-departure orientation, and follow-up activities in the United States. These items may be included as part of the applicant matching contribution. Up next is the selection criteria. So this, in essence, is going to be the rubric that is used to score your application. So you have 8 criteria that you should address in your project narrative. Your project narrative has a maximum limit of 40 pages, and I highly recommend using all 40 pages. Applicants can receive 100 points total for addressing all of the selection criteria. And in addition, you can receive 11 points by addressing the competitive preference priorities specific to short-term projects. So now I'm going to break down each of these selection criteria and the competitive preference priorities in detail. All right, plan of operation is up first. This is worth 20 points. Applicants should introduce the reader to their institution or organization by providing statistics and other demographic information relevant to the project. The need for the project, the selection of the country of study, and the objectives of the project should also be discussed. The project design should be addressed. This generally includes the 3 project phases we just discussed. Applicants should note how each phase of the project is to be carried out and supported under this plan of operation criteria. Going on with plan of operation, you should also address how the management plan will link all of the project phases and how it will efficiently operate under the project parties. Applicants should describe in which ways resources and personnel will be used in achieving the objectives of the project and include details of which key personnel will be responsible for vital project components and activities, and describe the how, why, when, and where project activities will take place. Please include a clear description of how your project will provide equal access and equipment for project participants, regardless of race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability. Many applicants neglect to include this description, resulting in a point deduction. The next criteria is the quality of key personnel. This is worth 10 points. Applicants should address the qualifications of the U.S. project director, which includes their academic training, their field of expertise in the host country, the administrative experience, language, and other related qualifications. Also, it is important to note the project director's time commitment to the project. You should also provide expertise of any other support staff, as well as their time commitment to the project. And applicants should also provide host country key personnel qualifications. These can include administrative staff, language teachers, assessors and evaluators in the host country. Please be sure to include their titles, project responsibilities, and their time commitments to the projects. You should also show, as part of the institution's non-discriminatory employment practices, how employment from underrepresented groups will be without regard to race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability. In the appendices section, the applicant should upload abbreviated CVs, which should be no more than 3 pages for each key personnel. All right, budget and cost effectiveness. This is our third selection criteria. This is worth 10 points. Here you should demonstrate and justify that all allowable expenses presented are adequate and reasonable in today's market and necessary to accomplish the project's goals. Applicants should discuss their project's cost effectiveness and show the relationship between the project's cost and the project's objectives. GPA projects do not require matching funds, but we do highly recommend using matching funds, whether those are matching funds from the institution or cost share by applicants or a combination. In the budget narrative attachment, applicants should upload a detailed itemized line budget and an accompanying budget narrative that clearly outlines how the costs have been calculated and are necessary to the project's objectives. This is important. A lot of times projects will include one or the other, either the line item budget or the budget narrative, but it is very important to include both. Remember, short-term projects have an 18-month project period, so your budget should reflect those 18 months. So here is an example of a budget sheet, and you'll notice that the budget here is broken into 3 columns. It shows the money that will be used from the GPA grant, the money that will be used from the college or university, and the money that will be used from the participant. Cost share. I highly recommend using this 3-column approach. It makes it very easy, cut and dry for the readers to look at, so that they're not guessing what money is coming from what area. Okay. Okay. Next is the evaluation plan. This is worth 20 points. A well-designed evaluation plan includes clearly articulated goals, measurable objectives, both quantitative and qualitative, a way to collect data to show progress, formal evaluations at each phase of the project, and informal evaluations, which can take the form of debriefings or daily journals. To add credibility to the evaluation plan, we highly encourage using an external evaluator that is independent of the project, so someone who is outside of your academic department or even external to your institution. Evaluation instruments that will be used to collect data during all project phases should be included. You can attach these in the appendices. And a timetable should be included to highlight when key component of the evaluation plan will occur. This also should be attached in your appendices. All right, applicants will be required to develop the proposed goals and the project-specific performance measures and activities on the performance measure form, or PMF, and these should be included in as part of your appendices as well. So here is an example, and here on this sample, you'll notice that the project goal statement on this PMF is to increase the quality and relevancy of less commonly taught language materials. The performance measure to support this goal is to increase the number of instructional modules that could be integrated into existing curriculum. And an activity highlighted here is to identify and propose at the pre-departure orientation meeting 2 to 3 instructional modules to be developed during the group project abroad period. Should the applicant become a grantee, they will be required to provide the data indicators and baseline numbers to include trend data similar to what we have on this slide. For more detailed information regarding evaluation plans, please review the application package instructions. Okay, moving on with our criteria. This is the adequacy of resources criteria, and this is worth 5 points. Here you want to explain what resources will be used to accomplish the project goals that are outlined in the project, both in the United States and abroad. You should indicate specifics regarding use of facilities, supplies, and other resources to show that they are adequate to carry out the activities in all phases of the project. In the appendices section, applicants should upload letters of support from both the United States and support country institutions and individuals. Now, these letters of support from the US and from your host country institutions, they're not required, but I highly recommend that you include them in your appendices. Next criteria is potential impact. This is worth 15 points. Applicants should focus on the potential impact of the project on the development and improvement of the study of modern foreign languages and area studies on participating institutions of higher education, public and private schools. You should describe the possible long-term benefits to project participants, their students, colleagues, and communities resulting from successful completion of the GPA grant. Applicants should indicate the process by which resulting curriculum project research will be evaluated for accuracy and effectiveness. Next, we have relevance to the institution's development. This is worth 10 points. Applicants should discuss the missions, goals, and objectives of the applicant institution, as well as what it would mean to have a GPA grant. Okay, and our last one is the need for overseas experience. This is worth 10 points. Here you should discuss how the project will bring about a better understanding of the host country. You should address the question, why this particular group to this particular place? And lastly, you should describe the relationship to the project in the institution's program development and modern foreign language and area studies. I keep mentioning the appendices. The grants.gov appendices will provide applicants with an other attachments section. And this is where you can include your pre-departure orientation agenda, your overseas project itinerary, follow-up activities, CVs of key personnel, and remember, each CV should be a maximum of 3 pages. Any letters of support can be attached here. Examples of evaluation materials, project timeline charts, project-specific PMF forms. And again, I highly recommend including all of these, quote, optional, and they are optional items, but the more you have here, the more it contributes to the strength of your application. Okay, so earlier I mentioned competitive preference priority points. So these are in essence bonus points for satisfying specific priorities. For fiscal year 2023, we have an additional 5 competitive preference priority points. I will also call them CPPs for short, for a total of a possible total of 11 additional points. In order to receive any of these points, you must indicate in your application which CPPs you're applying for. I recommend including that information in both your abstract and your project narrative. The first of these CPPs is Competitive Preference Priority 1. We award 3 additional points to applicants from minority serving institutions, community colleges, state educational agencies, or new applicants to the Group Projects Abroad program. You only need to satisfy one of these 4 categories in order to receive the points. Also, if you're curious whether or not you're a new applicant, you're not sure your institution has ever received an award, just contact me and I can look that information up for you. Okay, as a side note, you probably noticed that we skip from CPP 1 to CPP 3. That's only because CPP 2 is for long-term projects only, so don't let that confuse you. Okay, Competitive Preference Priority 3. You can earn 2 additional points if your project provides substantive training and thematic focus on any modern foreign language except French, German, Spanish, and of course English. Proposals must provide a minimum requirement of 20 hours towards language training on a less commonly taught language throughout the duration of the project. So that includes pre-departure orientation and the overseas portion to be eligible to apply. GPA short-term applications can also earn 2 additional priority points for focusing on projects that develop and improve foreign language studies, area studies, or both at the elementary and secondary level by including K through 12 teachers or K through 12 administrators as at least 50% of the project participants. So if you had 12 participants and 6 of those participants were K through 12 educators, you would be eligible for these points. But of course, make sure you indicate that somewhere in your narrative or your abstract. All right, Competitive Preference Priority 5. We award 2 points to applications that propose short-term projects abroad in modern foreign languages and area studies with an academic focus on the following academic fields: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, computer science, education, international development. Oops, I'm so sorry. Political science, public health, or economics. And then for, this is a new priority for fiscal year 2023. This is Competitive Preference Priority 6. All right, we are awarding two additional points for applications that propose one of the following projects: short-term overseas projects in Eastern Europe that provide cultural experiences and understanding about Ukraine history, politics, languages, and society to help integrate international studies into an institution's or school system's general curriculum. Projects may focus on a comparative topic such as Ukraine migration in Eastern Europe, or very similarly, short-term overseas projects in Central and South Asia that provide cultural experiences and understanding about Afghanistan history, politics, language, and society to help integrate international studies into an institution or school system's general curriculum. And again, projects may focus on a comparative topic such as Afghanistan migration in Central and South Asia. Of course, both of these countries are closed to Fulbright-Hays Group Projects Abroad projects, so you would have to choose a host country that is acceptable and could also integrate these ideas. All right. I'd like to provide you some tips on putting together a successful application package. As you're getting organized, we encourage applicants to review abstracts of funded grantees and past successful proposal. You can find these on the GPA website. We encourage applicants to develop internal and external links that will assist you in putting together a solid application. For example, you may wish to meet with relevant staff from the Grants and Contracts Office or coordinate with your colleges or colleagues on campus that have international education and grants experience to develop a robust plan of operation and management plan. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, you should secure an external evaluator, as this will send a strong signal to peer reviewers that you're serious about your program evaluation. We strongly encourage applicants to review our FAQs on the website. We advise you to designate a management team with international and grants experience, identify your institution or department's needs and wants, and request letters of support both from the US and abroad. We highly recommend that you review the Federal Register Notice and the GPA program websites for updated information. And honestly, I say this one every year, and I stress it. I couldn't stress it enough. Please feel free to contact me at gpa@ed.gov. I have a plethora of sample documents that I can share with you that I ensure will help you and give you at least some jumping off points, whether or not that's a sample project narrative, sample timelines, sample budget sheets, et cetera, et cetera. Just let me know. I will be happy to share them with you. All right, when you're writing your proposal, make sure you address, let me actually back up a little bit. This may be the number one thing that I see year to year that is the most important when it comes to making sure you you get the most points for your proposal. Honestly, make sure you address all selection criteria, all 8 of those criteria that we just discussed. Make sure you touch on each and every single one of them. You know, if you forget, for example, relevance, then you could be out 15 points, and that is a lot of points when it comes to separating these scores when we do our rank order. Okay, make sure you address all selection criteria. I also recommend that you address them in the order listed in the application package. That way, reviewers aren't looking for the information; it's readily available for them. Generating a table of contents is very helpful in developing a highly organized application. You should provide a detailed plan of operation. An evaluation includes sufficient details so that someone unfamiliar with your project could conduct it. You want to make sure that you write clear, measurable goals, objectives, and outcomes. Provide a specific and detailed budget, again, making sure that you include both the line item budget and the budget narrative. And again, I recommend doing that kind of 3-column design when creating your budget. Avoid grammatical errors and specific professional jargon and acronyms, and use persuasive descriptions of how your project operates. It is very, very, very important to be clear, concise, and detailed. When submitting your application, make sure you register early on grants.gov to avoid any system issues. Save your written proposal to avoid any computer issues. If your institution is not funded, consult the reviewer comments and reapply. And please do not wait until the last minute to submit. The deadline for your application is March 27th, 2023 at 12 o'clock on the dot, midnight Eastern Standard Time. All applicants, regardless of regardless if they are awarded or not, will receive their results via email by September 30th, 2023. It's usually much, much sooner than that. Scores and comments will be sent to you via email. And for successful grantees, as always, be prepared to hit the ground running. Here's a few websites that can be helpful to you as you work on your applications. You can find sample abstracts from past projects, sample narratives, submission instructions, and a link to our quarterly newsletter that will update you on future projects or applications as well. This slide contains a link to the GPA website as well as my contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer questions. And I also wanted to touch on this. Institutions are able to apply for more than one GPA grant. You can submit multiple short-term projects. You can submit multiple long-term projects. You can submit a combination of short-term and long-term. If you choose to submit a long-term, please be sure to watch the long-term technical assistance webinar, as long-term applications have different requirements than short-term applications. You can find the long-term webinar at the International Foreign Language Education Office's YouTube channel. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the GPA Short-Term Technical Assistance webinar. I hope it will help you in putting together a competitive application. We wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to your application. Thank you.